All right, to kick off the conversation on Tech Tuesday, we start with our first guest. Her name is Olamide Ajah. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Our Tuesdays are like Tech Tuesday, so we discuss everything techie. And we're going to be talking about the disruption of technology in the various aspects of Nigeria's living, in our economy, healthcare and security, and basically everything. But let me first start with the first question. Where are we right now in terms of tech in the global space? Nigeria, where are we? I want to ask that first question.
Okay, great question. So I've never seen a wider disruption in tech and a more widespread adoption of tech than after COVID. So COVID changed the way of life, right? So we realized that suddenly things we didn't know were possible became possible, right? So businesses started realizing that, oh, our workers can actually work from home, right? So, and thanks to Zoom, thanks to Meet, thanks to Skype, you realize I can collaborate with people halfway around the world, without having to be physically with them. So basically, borders are being brought down. Businesses realize that they can have customers beyond their geographical location, right? So basically, we've just realized that tech has really disrupted our way of life, even in healthcare, for instance. I mean, it's COVID, so we realize that people is having telemedicine, right? So you can actually book for appointments, medical appointments without having to go to the hospital. You have electronic medical records, where you as a patient have the power in your hands to store your own medical information. Because what you realized before is that when you go to a hospital, the hospital holds your information. But you go to another hospital and then that information is lost. You have to start all over again from the other hospital. But now technology has made it possible that you as a patient, you have the technology in your hands, you have the information in your hands, and no matter where you go, you take your information with you, making it possible for doctors to give better diagnosis. Okay. Right. So in different industries, we just realized that technology has really changed the way we do things.
So let's talk about security now. A lot, like you said, you have access to all of these things in your hands, and the web is a wide space where everyone has access to. But where are we in that security as related to tech? Because still, a lot of things still go wrong.
I have to say that I think when it comes to security, that's probably where we still have a long way to go to develop when it comes to tech, right? Because I mean, you've been hearing the news, seeing what's going on and all that in the security, from a security perspective. We have a long way to go, yes. And I believe that introduction of the National Identity Number, NIN, and other initiatives that the government is taking are providing a good foundation for us to build proper technology to handle security issues. But we're not yet there. We're still at the level of building foundations. At some point, we need solutions that would enable governments to be able to identify people by their faces. So, maybe somebody takes a picture of somebody committing a crime, you can easily just do face match. You understand? So match a person's face against your database and start identifying criminals. You can take their fingerprints and be able to trace criminals across borders. So I believe that we still have a long way to go to be able to use biometric matching, face matching, fingerprint matching to apprehend criminals and just ensure that we can track them as they go. But we're getting there, right? We're not yet there, but I believe that at least with the current initiatives that the government is bringing on board, that gets us started on the road to that.
I need to emphasize that because, of course, there's current crisis going on in different parts, banditry and kidnapping and killing and all of that. So how can we best use tech, especially with the Boko Haram? And they will say, oh, they're one location. Ordinary, simple profile mapping, they can't do. That's what they do abroad. When they have this kind of issues, they already can tell where these people are. So what are the issues? What are things that can be done to ensure that crime rates are reduced? These things are reduced through technology.
So I typically like to say that there's no big red button you press to solve this problem, right? You have to tackle the problem from multiple perspectives. The very first way you have to tackle the problem is ensure every single person, every single citizen in Nigeria can be identified. Who are you? What are your details? What do you do? Which is what NIMS is trying to do by building a database of citizens. I think we can't jump that step. It's very important, right? And then once you have that database, you can then start bringing other initiatives on top of that foundation. For instance, you can then ensure that look at SIM registration, for instance, right? with SIM registration being linked to your name, we know exactly, because what these kidnappers do, they typically buy a SIM, they call you, and then they destroy the SIM. And you don't know who bought the SIM, you don't know their details. So when that loophole is closed by ensuring that the SIM belongs to somebody you can identify, you reduce the loopholes, right? You reduce the ways that they can actually commit their crimes. So having that identity is very important. Blocking the SIM registration loophole is very important by ensuring that everybody that owns a SIM has an identity we can verify. And once you have those two in place, then you can now have, solutions. Maybe the police, imagine if every police station is equipped with a solution that helps them identify you. So you come to the police station and they say, oh, this person did this. You put your fingerprint and you see that, you this same person, you committed this other crime in this other state, that's something else you've done. So with that database, you can basically ensure that you can apprehend criminals and you can basically track their activities,
and that's something that we still really lack. We lack a proper database, because even some people are afraid of filling in forms because they are afraid of fraudulent activities using their own data. Let's talking about communication. I know you said, let's reiterate a bit, you mentioned it's being more useful now in the workplace, and tech has helped, communication in the workplace tremendously. That's the truth. Post-COVID, but it has its downsides. Like, tech has also ruined communication between the one-on-one person, the personal relationship with your colleague, your friend. Tech has made it so much so that it's now hard to have a conversation. Because it's just the LOL, LMAA, short codes and all of that. So how do we remedy this in communication space?
Interesting question. Well, the first thing is, just like you won't say because there's a chance, you've heard about flight crashes that you won't fly anymore, or that because there are accidents you won't go on a road trip anymore. So the advantages of tech are undeniable. We have to go with the modern technology. But I think it's now left to each and every one of us, right, as parents, as colleagues, as friends, to ensure that we continue to drive those traditional cultures that we grew up with, culture where face-to-face interaction was valued above phone interaction. I think it's just left to us individuals to actually drive that culture, consciously imbibe it ourselves, and then drive it into our children and to those around us, right? So I think it's an individual responsibility thing, really.
What can we do to just evolve to best practices, global practices, the way it's done in other countries? The standard of talking about index rates and tech rates. What are things that we can do to just evolve as Nigeria? Because with some of these businesses and with the way private investors are, there's money coming in, but at the same time, there's that gap. So how can we evolve?
Yes, you're very correct. And I think government still has a lot of role to play here. Right? Because when you look at more advanced countries, if you look at the involvement of technology in more advanced countries, it's a synergy between government and private bodies, right? Take your smartphone, for instance. What makes your phone smart? It's smart because you can access the internet. You have a touch screen, All this internet I mentioned and the touch screen, even your GPS, technologies that were powered or funded by the US government, military specifically. So those things started as US military research projects, right? Before they grew into what they grew into, and then private companies were able to take advantage of them and then give you a smartphone. So it tells you the role that the government has to play and then the role that the private citizens have to play. So leave the actual technology to private citizens, but create an enabling environment. For instance, STEM is not a very popular, by STEM I mean science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. It's not a very popular course that people want to take right now in Nigeria. Incentivize students to go for STEM courses, right? Give them scholarships to go for STEM courses. Power R&D, give companies tax breaks and research grants and other incentives to put their monies into R&D. I just think we need governments to do their part in creating that infrastructure and enabling environment for private companies to bloom and to be able to do their own business. So they would do the rest once the infrastructure and the enabling environment is there.
So who has helped so far between the government and the private sector, in your own opinion?
Like I said, in my opinion, it's a synergy. You can't really take one out of the equation, right? If you take government out, then the foundation upon which the private companies built on will not be there. But if you take the companies out, government alone does not have the capacity to drive these innovations that we're talking about. So it's a synergy, really.
Okay. How can we encourage more young people to go into STEM, into tech space, more women? We always have to include that part. What can we do? It's a collective effort between the government and the citizens, because if we have more people, more ideas, that's the way the economy will grow. So how can we, evolve to that level?
Yeah, part of what I mentioned earlier about giving scholarships, for instance. So if, as a student, maybe I just finished my SS3 and I'm looking to study and I realize that, oh, I can get a full scholarship if I go study computer engineering in these universities. Of course, you get more interest in those courses. So I think on the immediate, at least for the university, for the federal universities, government can actually, incentivize this by giving scholarships to students. And also beyond that, government can also equip those universities to have better R&D facilities, right? So if I go to school and I'm coming out equipped for the workplace, because if you look at more advanced countries, their universities are core to their innovation, because you realize that you hear about MIT, Harvard, those universities are the ones driving innovation. So we need to get to the point where our universities in Nigeria are driving our innovation.
I just had to laugh about that. Hopefully we'll do you have any
No, because a lot of students don't really want to do anything tech or computer engineering or even IT
but that trend
or
is
stuff.
changing. That trend is changing.
Yes, because now I think a lot of people are noticing that the technology space is now the money-making space. Not necessarily because it's going to move tech forward.
It's a start.
It's just because of the money.
It's a start,
Well,
right?
we hope so. But go ahead.
And even with our laboratories in universities, they're still teaching Asian things. So there's a whole lot of overhauling that needs to be done.
Yes, the curriculum needs to be overhauled, But like I said, let's even start. And I think another thing is, also making Nigeria there are lots of other factors here that can go into economy and all that. Because when you look at other countries, they also grew by knowledge transference. So other people that have already done it come into your country and then they're transferring the knowledge. But we're a bit constrained from that perspective because, our economic situation in Nigeria is not very appealing to foreigners, right? So doing our part also to ensure that the economy is growing, security issues are handled, would encourage foreign companies to come in, and then that knowledge transference would basically also really help a lot of these universities and even individuals to grow.
But before we wrap up, I just wanted to know, and I know a lot of people will be inquisitive about this. Could you share some highlights on some kind of apps or that every business owner, at least let's give something to the business owners watching this, should own at least or have on their phones, on their smartphones?
Well, I guess it also depends on the business, but you realize that every business owner first, at least in this day and age, you want to identify who is working with you. Who are you? What's your name? What are your details? You want to identify them, right? For instance, we at Simpix have built an app where every business owner can verify the identity of their employees, right? So for me, that kind of app is a no-brainer. Every business owner should have it because you need to know exactly who you're bringing on board, right? Then when you go beyond that, then you talk about apps like maybe Instagram. Because why do I say Instagram or Twitter? Why do I mention these two in particular? Technology has created a foundation for social media, the rise of the social media. And earlier I mentioned that technology has brought down barriers, right? When it comes to the customers of businesses. So you don't have, your customers should not be limited to Nigeria. You can have customers even across the world. How do you get to them? You get to them through social media, right? So you need to be social media savvy in this day and age as a business owner. So I think those apps basically would, they're a no-brainer for a business owner that would want to break down barriers and get customers beyond their immediate geographical space.
All right, I mean, thank you so much. You said a lot because apparently we didn't even mention your expertise is in product and people, programs management, people management. This is a lot. Of course, you're also into desktop and web development. That's tech space. You really, how long have you been in the tech space?
12 years.
12 years.
Yeah.
Wow. And I mean, before we wrap up, women, how have you been able to encourage women in that tech space? Because there are not too many women who are going into this space.
Yes. When I first started working, for instance, I think I was the only lady in the midst of about 10 guys. So I saw firsthand, and even till now, the ratio is still out of balance. But on my part, and even on the part of my company, we are deliberate about hiring women.
Okay.
So not just hiring, we're not expecting you to already be experienced. We're deliberate about hiring you and training you in tech, right? So I'm very passionate about women in tech. I'm very passionate about trying to bring up other ladies like I have been brought up in tech. So, I give opportunities to ladies, even if you don't know, as long as you're passionate and you're willing to learn. Right. You come in and we get you trained.
Thank you so much. I mean, it was nice really talking to you to really get your mind on the present position of tech and how we can leverage tech and how we can grow as a nation and as an economy. Thank you so much, Olamide, Ajah, for coming on the show. So I'm going further on the conversation. It's workouts, and a lot of people are not really good with workouts. Some people struggle with workouts. Some women feel, well, let me just beat my bar in peace. I don't need to work out. So if you want to have that body goals, we're going to be talking to tech expert Elizabeth Onyema on how to get your body bouncing and how to be popping, you know, with tech, with workout, sorry. So we'll be right back. We'll take this break and we'll be right back. Don't go nowhere.